So we're here on a day when we've worked with this colt over time to do several things to get him round penning a little better. We've worked on his groundwork. There are videos up on that. We've put, importantly, a body rope around him where we put some pressure on various parts of his torso to get him used to some pressure. And I've had milk jugs and tarps and so forth around him, so I see no reason not to go ahead and saddle this colt now. He's a 2-year-old, and the big question is, do I start him or does somebody else start him? Since there's a chance I may be putting my sorry ass up on him, I'm going to be real meticulous. If it was somebody else, I'd just say, come get on him. But since it might be me, I'm going to be more careful than that. Just kidding. So what I've got here is the saddle I use for a first saddle on a young horse. I use a regular pad, but this big macho saddle is what I use. It's a kid saddle. It weighs very little. It's easy to put on. It's easy for them to carry. It's a horse tree, not a pony tree. And it's not quite as challenging to get on a young horse or to the young horse when it's on, because I saddle a horse with my saddle, with my stirrup adjustment. The stirrups are down there banging around their belly or almost to up to their forearm, back to their flank. This has little short stirrups on it. It's easy to put on. It's got a single girth, easy to saddle, and not much for him to tote around. Plus, I mean, my sister is, I think she won't scold me if I said she's past 60 now. This was her saddle when she was 7 years old, and it was used then. So it's kind of seen a lot of wear, and if a horse was to lie down on it, it's not going to do it any harm. I hate to put a real good new saddle on a young horse. They'll scrub it along the fence. They'll lie down with it. I allow them to lie down with the saddle on, because they'll only do it a time or two. Usually it's not comfortable to them. But I don't want to do it with a saddle that I ride every day, that I don't want to get banged up. This is held up remarkably well through a fair number of colts. The other thing, of course, you have to do is you got to pad this thing. And I've just got a 3/4 inch pad that probably you could use a smaller pad to go with that saddle, but this is what he'll eventually wear. And I've had everything else on this colt. I realized when I started to do this, I'd never had a saddle pad on him. But because of all the other stuff, I mean, he's had tarps, and this is a little less challenging than a tarp by about a mile. I've thrown milk jugs at him because in the near future, I'll be tying milk jugs all over that saddle to let him hang and rattle. I won't do that today because I don't want to over challenge him. Now, if he wants to buck, I'm going to turn him loose. I'm going to take the halter off. I'm not going to try to make him buck, but if he has to, if that's what he needs to do to figure this out, that's quite all right. But I want to see if he wants to be a nice horse to saddle. I want to see if he wants to be calm about moving around with it. So I'm going to let him do what he wants. Now, after this ride, it's no longer just up to him whether he bucks. I start to have something to say about it, and I probably put him back on a line and discourage that. But see, he doesn't know much about a saddle, maybe like nothing. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt to do some dumb stuff with it like that. And he'd like to have a chew of it. And I'm not going to let him tear the saddle up, but I'm not going to say, well, that's wrong, or scold him. I'm just going to say, that's what you need to do to get to know what this thing is. That's okay. And there's two sides to him, so I'll pitch the saddle over to this side. Yeah, not jousted him up just a little, but that's what it's all about. And the second time it didn't. He just didn't know a saddle could be thrown at him. Now he knows. So, What I like to do is just take my rope, put it over my arm so I've got it if I need it. And I'm gonna saddle him. I'm tall enough that I can feed these things down the far side rather than have them all rigged up. And then I put the saddle down on him. Guess what? That's his first saddling, and it's over. But hang around, because that's not the end. That was just his first saddle. In about 10 seconds, you're probably going to see his second saddle. So I gather this stuff up, feed it over, let it come on down, but not swat him in the belly. I got that set up. It's a little too short to get over the horn. Let's see how that's gonna work. So I'm gonna take a wrap, make sure I got enough to get a second wrap. May have to let it down on the other side. That happens. Don't want him to get his head down, because that gives him a little bit of an advantage over me. But I'm gonna kind of be a little bit on the casual side, because the surest way to make something a big deal is to make a big deal out of it. Now I got that loosened down. This colt's a little deeper than the last one I saddled. So I'm gonna get this side, drop it out a notch. Meanwhile, he's learning patience, another good lesson. So I'm not messing around and I'm not being unsure, but I'm not hurrying and saying, I'm gonna try to sneak this saddle on him before he knows it's on. He knows it's on. It's up to him to decide how he's gonna handle that knowledge, but it's soon time to find out. So I'm gonna give that a little draw. And it's at a point now where it probably wouldn't turn on him if he did jump. You give it another draw. Now, it's pretty clear we're not gonna be roping heavy cattle in this saddle. So I don't need to draw it up like I'm gonna go out and rope a 1,500 pound bull, but I'm gonna get enough on it that it'll stay on. And typically, that's enough that they don't really love it, but I don't want it going under his belly, because that's a bad experience for him. Pretty quickly, horses learn to blow up, and we all sort of act like we hate it, but they blow up to keep themselves more comfortable, and then it keeps you honest. You draw the saddle a couple times. These colts are innocent. They don't know they can blow up. So what I drew on him is really not inflated with air. It's all meat under there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna step away from him, and I've got a lunge whip lying out here somewhere. If I don't, I'll just chase him with my hands. But what I wanna do is I wanna be very aware that he may look for security with me when I turn him loose. So he may feel that saddle tighten down on him. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, buddy. He may feel that saddle tighten down on him when he starts to move. He may get a knot in his back, and he may say, buddy, save me, and come over to me and try to climb in my lap. And I can't accommodate a 1,000-pound lapdog. So I want to make sure I'm aware that I may need to drive him away from me and get him out on the fence moving around. I'm not going to force him to move a whole lot, but I do want him to move off the spot. So I'm going to drop this halter off. And I'm just going to let him be on his own time for a minute. And he's somewhat unconcerned. I went over and fetched my lunge whip so I can keep a little distance from him if I need to. And right now, I don't even need him to jog or trot, but I'd like him to keep walking. And this colt's actually big enough that I may put a longer girth on it, because this one's a little down in his armpit. So I'll probably saddle him with this saddle several times. But a lot of the colts I've been riding aren't near as big and deep as this colt. He girths up pretty big. So I'll probably put a little longer girth on for the next saddle. This isn't gonna hurt him, but it's sure not a long-term fit. And there you go, he's trotting. See how that saddle raise up in the back. You'll see it when he goes, well, there he went in a lope, but he didn't buck. Usually if they're gonna buck, it's when they tip over into a lope, but you can see that pad standing up in the back. When he was just walking around, it wasn't elevated. So he's got a little knot in his back, but he's saying, maybe I can just figure this out, not do anything too radical. And I'm saying, good on you, buddy. Just go ahead, I'm gonna give you whatever time you need to figure it out. I want to see if he still remembers and he can face me. Hey, you want a break? There you go. How does that feel, bud? You gonna be a riding horse? I got a feeling you are. I want him to walk away from this. Not blow away, not break into. So this is, to me, a better than average first saddling. At one time in my life, I used to try to get them to buck because I figured if they don't buck, it's still in there. Well, I'm gonna claim at least a fond hope that I already took that out of him with some of the preliminary work that we've done and that we've posted. That rope around his belly took a lot of that buck out of him. Now see that saddle pad? Watch it when it goes by again. When you get behind him, you'll see that it's getting closer to his back. That's the knot going out of his back. Pretty nice little old colt. Now what I'll do over some time is I will start doing groundwork with him. And if he gets stiff or he gets tight or he gets a knot in his back, there's no way I get on his back until all of that till that saddle's just natural as a leaf sitting on a branch. Till it just feels okay to him, instead of something like alien sitting on his back trying to squeeze his guts. So he stood for a little bit. Sometimes they get a little second wind. See, he's a little more elevated. There you go. So if that's in there, I like to keep him moving. I think the stirrup set him off. Only part of that I didn't like was how he reared up. I'd rather have him buck than rear. Personal preference. If I'm on his back and he rears up, he might fall on me. If he's bucking, it's up to me to fall off him myself, and I can handle that job. So Mikey, that was pretty easy. Yeah, I think we could get through that if we had to, but let's not make that part of our routine. So this is the direction he bucked. Now a change of direction can sometimes lead to a little blow up. Let's see what we get. Not too bad. He also learned he's not going to buck that saddle off. That may lead him to the mistaken belief that he can't buck me off. So maybe he won't try, and I'll take that. Okay, bud. Now, in a more perfect world, I would have a big square pen. Where I grew up, we had not a great big pen, but like maybe 90 by 160. Right next to the round pen, I could turn young horses out there and let them move around. What I'd often do is I'd ride another horse that I was working on and just chouse them around a bit. So he came in to look me up. And if you watch the other video we made not long ago, he's very devoted to that halter. There, see, that surprised him. That's the stuff you want him to get used to. So he had a little shake. The saddle shook more than he did. I'll leave him out here for a while, but in that perfect world, he would be out in the bigger pen, and maybe I'd be on another horse, and every so often I'd just move him. So that he doesn't fall asleep, wake up and say, holy hell, there's a saddle on me or something on me. I'm going to buck it off. Give him a little time to get past that. So I'm going to leave him out here to just soak for a while. Yeah. But he gets a good grade on that. And we're going to try to keep that good progression going to where in the next few weeks he's ready for a grown-up saddle, he's ready for milk jugs rattling on him, and then he's ready for me or somebody else that I may choose to get on him and they can rattle and not spook him. So I'm going to let him wander around a little bit with that. You don't need to stay and watch him. I'll let you know. You'll be the first to know if he jumps out of the pen. I'll post it. Thanks. Till next time.